Good evening and welcome to the Maple Plains City Council meeting. It is Tuesday, May 28th at 7:02 p.m. and I call the meeting to order. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I am looking for a motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Fay,
I'll second that motion.
second by Burek. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the agenda as is, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it, 4-0. Visitors to be heard? Seeing none, we'll move on. Next item of business is our consent agenda. Our consent agenda this evening includes the April 29th, 2024 Board of Equalization continuance minutes, April 29th special City Council meeting minutes, May 13th City Council workshop minutes, People Service contract renewal, approve the 2023 city audit, the April 22nd City Council business meeting minutes, and the April 22nd City Council workshop minutes. Looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda. I know Administrator Colander has something to say.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. There were a few changes that we needed to make on the 29th special meeting. The 22nd special meeting. Item B, motion was made by John Fay, recommending the $120,000 reduction with the stipulation that the owner appealed to Hennepin County Board, and that motion failed. We didn't have that, what the actual motion was that he made in there. And then for council discussion on item D in those minutes, we didn't put in that Fay opposed and the reason why he opposed, wanting a period of temporary defined. And then I had one more, and that was the spelling of Chief Dennison's name was incorrect, so we will correct those changes.
Okay. Thank you for those updates. And then did you have other corrections as well that were sent to you? That we need to note, or?
I think I mentioned them all.
There was one with the water.
Oh, yes, thank you.
That I know was in. consent as
Yes,
well.
it was mentioned in there too, that we were having discussions about not providing Medina water. I don't even know how that made it into the minutes, because we did not say that, so that will be taken out as well. Thank you.
Yeah, on
Madam
page
Mayor.
171. Okay, thank you. So with those corrections to those minutes, were there any other corrections? All right, so with the corrections noted, looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda, items A through G.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Councilmember Francis,
Second?
second by Councilmember Fay. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries 4-0. Next item of business this evening is accounts payable, and I will turn that over to staff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. We have total of city and fire bills of $237,119.70. We had ACH payments, so automatic payments of $6,581.54, and our check payments that will go out tomorrow if approved of $237,119.70. It is my recommendation that we approve the accounts payable.
Jacob, a comment and a question. The comment would be, I was fortunate enough to tour the revised Spikes and Hools hardware department with the general manager, and I know that the fire department tends to go to Gopher Ace in Long Lake for their hardware-related items. please advise them that we now have hardware in Maple Plain, and they can do their shopping there.
Will do.
And then, can you explain what the additional workers' compensation costs is? It just says agreement period 1/1 of 23 on both of them. That would be page 175. League of Minnesota Insurance Trust, workers' comp for the fire department as well as, I'm guessing, the city.
I don't right off the top of my head, no.
It's a little dated.
If we can, let's try to get them the questions ahead of time so we can answer them for you tonight, because I don't.
I mean, if you want, I can look it up and pull the invoice.
Councilmember Fay?
No. Who puts, does Abdo put the AP together now?
Both myself and Abdo.
Okay.
Mayor,
Yes.
I have an idea of what it might be. I don't know for certain, but around this time of year, we do get potentially an additional invoice after the work comp audit is completed. Some years there's an additional payment that needs to be made, and some years there's a refund to the city. That dollar amount makes me speculate that that's what it is, but you know, we can
Well-
definitely look at that and get back to you for sure.
And that would make sense too with the period that it's noted,
Correct.
January
Yes.
1. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So,
That's fair.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions regarding accounts payable? For both city and fire? Okay, hearing none, then I am looking for a motion to pay the city and fire bills in the amount of $237,119.70.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Councilmember Fay,
I'll second that motion.
second by Councilmember Burek. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of paying accounts payable signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. The next item before us today is our staff reports. Those have all been submitted in writing, so we've had a chance to review those. If anyone has any questions regarding A through E, we can let Jacob know those so he can bring those back. Any questions regarding those? All right, I will turn it over to, we'll start with our administrator for administration and finance on page 212 in the packet.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. For the month of May, we are continuing our fire district discussions. Administration is continuing its work with Independence on what that possible fire department merger will look like. Mark and I will be setting up some time to chit-chat about that. Sorry, let me get this up on the screen here for you guys. There we go. So we'll come back when we have some more information and stuff, you know, different methods that we want to look at,
Excuse me.
back to the fire commission, and then to the council. April 30th, we celebrated Sergeant Rick Dennison's retirement, serving our community for 35 years. We said congrats to him. I am fortunate enough that I continue to work with him as our fire chief, so lucky me. During the first week of May, I attended the MCMA conference in Baxter, Minnesota. There were great learning sessions that talked about how well we tell stories, discussions about mental health. There were also great networking opportunities, so I thank the council for continuing to support me going to that conference. Mark your calendars for 4 p.m. June 6th for Muffins with Mayor. And then the Bryant Street, Wyman Street, and Independence Street construction will be starting. There's already some utility work being done by CenterPoint Energy. Construction on Independence will start Monday, June 10th. I've been asked by several people if they'll be working Saturdays. They hope not to. However, in the event that they do, they are required to give us 48 hours notice and get our approval. And we ask that everybody stay tuned to the city website for details and updates regarding the 2024 reconstruction project, because that is the only place that we will be posting those updates. So there's one place to go for those. And then Julie with ABDO is here to go over the first quarter finances for the council.
Welcome.
Great, thank you, Mayor and members of the council. I'll walk through sort of page by page through the report. This is your first time seeing our quarterly report, so want you to get a good understanding of the format and the information that we provide. So in this first quarter report, we are looking at all of the financial information for March 31st of 2024. This information is unaudited, so no audit opinion has been provided on the first quarter information. Throughout the report, we do compare to either the year-to-date budget, so a projected first quarter, first 3 months of the year, and then to the 12/31/2023 numbers. We're going to start on page 3 of the report. This covers the cash and investment balances of the city in total. At 3/31/2024, the city had $4.8 million in cash. This is a decrease of about $1.1 million or $1,175,000 from December. We'll touch on why that large decrease as we go through the report. The second table on this page breaks out that cash and investment balance based on your checking and the different types of investments that you have. So you can see that the majority of that decrease does occur in that checking category. Page 4 of the report is a graphical representation of your month-over-month change in cash just for your general fund. The orange line that just shows January, February, and March is the current year. The yellow line is the prior year, so your 2023. I think it's a dark green, is 2 years prior, so that's 2022. Your general fund prior year average cash balance is that gray dotted line. It's just under that $800,000 line. And then the solid black line going across is your 50% target reserve. So that's where we would like to keep that cash balance on a month-by-month basis. Looking at the graph, your cash trends for the general fund are following the prior 2 years. You'll note that there are large spikes in July of each of the last 2 years. That's when we get the tax settlements. So that's expected every year. Page 5 of the report. This chart just shows the last 3 years of treasury yields. Just some good information to look at and review. Page 6 of the report, here's where we get into the revenues and expenditures for the general fund. So on this page, we show the annual budget, so that's your total budget for the general fund for 2024. That second column is the year-to-date budget, so that's your projected budget for this first quarter. Then we show the year-to-date actual, and then the budget variance. So the variance from that year-to-date projected budget. When we prepare this report, we analyze changes greater than $15,000, and then with that percent change of less than 80% or greater than 120%. So that's why we don't have explanations on each line. We focus on those major changes. So that very first line, in revenues is your property taxes. We show $1 in actual revenue. That's just a rounding from audit entries. So we'll, again, show that revenue starting in July. The number 2 bullet there is your intergovernmental revenue. So this is your local government aid. Again, that revenue comes in July and December. So we will show some revenue starting in the 3rd quarter there. In the expense section, we've noted that police administration, those expenses are larger than projected for the 1st quarter of the year. That's just due to how the payments are made on the police contract. We've paid ahead for the first half of the year. And with the fire administration, that next line, we're under budget in that line item, and that's just due to timing of those payments. At the time that the quarter ended, the March payment hadn't been made on that fire contract. At the bottom of the table, we have transfers out. We have not done the budgeted transfers for the general fund. We've been analyzing those at year end. So when we get to the end of the year, those will be included. I'm going to jump to page 8. Page 8 is the cash balances by fund. So at the beginning of the report, we showed cash and investment balances in total. This page breaks it out by each of the city's funds. We do explain any changes greater than $50,000 in this chart. The first one being the general fund. First quarter is always really tough. With the general fund, the majority of our reasons are property tax revenue. So we've got payments going out each month, but we don't have our large main revenue source coming in. So that's the reason for that reduction in cash there. The debt service funds that each have a number 2 next to them. Again, similar to the general fund, we've got tax revenue coming in to cover those debt service payments. We've already made those payments in January, but that revenue hasn't come in to offset those payments. The 2024 street reconstruction fund, so the number 3 bullet there, we've got a reduction of about $97,000 in cash. That's just due to additional payments going out. And then the water, sewer, and stormwater funds. Again, payments were made on the bonds in January, and the principal payments are large, so we're continuing to each month by billing recoup some of those costs as we're billing residents for their water and sewer use. Pages 10 and 11 of the report give you a little bit more detail on those cash and investments. So the chart with the blue and white lines, that details out all of the different cash and investment accounts that you have and the balances at market value. And then page 11 gives you just a little bit more graphical information and shows you, how your investments fall as far as maturity timelines. Page 12 of the report, we look at the fire fund. So this is actually 3 of the city funds combined, and we did include those at the top just for future reference. And so when you're looking at those detailed pages at the end, you can cross-reference. With some of these other funds, we do also provide a graph at the bottom showing the revenues coming in. So again, you can see the month-over-month revenues and how they're trending compared to the prior 2 years. So here we're right on track. Looking at the items that we analyzed in the report, we've got salaries in the expense section. This variance is due to the timing of the annual pension contribution. This payment has not been made as of the end of the first quarter. And then again, the transfers out, we will process those transactions at the end of the year. Going on to page 14, we're looking specifically at the water fund here. And again, this is two funds that are combined. Variance here, we have charges for services. And we're comparing to the prior year's first quarter in this section, not to budget. So we're looking at year-over-year comparisons. The large decrease from the first quarter of 2023 is due to the Baker Park Townhomes revenue coming in the first quarter of 2023, and that was about $172,000. And then miscellaneous revenues, that's due to a reimbursement from People Services for a water main break, and that was about $57,000. And then in the expense section, debt service, the principal payments in the enterprise funds are coded to a balance sheet account and not an expense account. So we've properly accounted for those in the first quarter of 2024, whereas in the first quarter of 2023, that payment was still included in the expenses. And looking at the graph, for water revenues, you're trending very similar to the last 2 years. Moving on to page 16, this is the sewer fund. Again, two funds combined, Fund 602 and 622. We've reviewed the operating expenses. Reasons for decrease in expenses here is due to pump installation and repairs in March of 2023. That was about $17,000. And then again, with the debt service payments, the principal payments of those were coded to the bonds payable account and not as an expense. So we'll see that continue on throughout the year with that variance there. And then the capital line, we have started to record depreciation expense on a monthly basis for the enterprise funds. So that's a change from how we've accounted for that in the past. In the past, it's been an entry just at the end of the year, but we wanted to start showing that expense on a monthly basis. And your sewer revenues, those 3 lines in January, February, and March are very close each year, so right on track. Page 18, we're looking at the stormwater fund. That's funds 603 and 623. And there was nothing noted here to analyze. Everything seems to be in line with the prior year. The remainder of the report is the detail general ledger reports right out of Banyan. A lot of information there, and we'll work through, as Jacob mentioned before the meeting, to get that cleaned up, so through the budget process in the future, you won't have quite so many pages. And with that, I will take any questions.
So just to clarify then about the last 40 pages are just general ledger.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So that's directly out of the finance system.
Okay.
Showing the very detailed line items that have rolled up into the report.
Okay. I don't believe I had ever
I've
seen
never-
that before, so
Okay.
I just reading
Sure.
and reading, and I was like, okay, good to know.
Yes.
That makes sense. And then you said we will expect to see that then every quarter?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And we'll work to clean it up.
Yep.
Great. Yeah, it seems like we have a lot of things that aren't being used. Administrator Colander.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. So, the quarter reports that we get for this year, you're gonna get all of those pages with those zeros. Cause that's
Oh.
part of that report until we go through the budgeting season. 2025 is when that'll go away, cause it'll clean that all out of there. Am I correct? Or can we do it, can we get rid of them now?
I will work with Jesse.
Okay.
If we can get rid of them now, we'll try.
Let's do it. If we can.
Okay.
Councilmember DeLuca and I worked with Bonnie a couple of years ago to try to consolidate and close out accounts that we weren't using. Is that gone and away, and now we're dealing, because you're our outsourced finance director, that we're going back to where we started from, and we'll narrow it down from there?
I guess I'm not aware of what some of those conversations happened before we came in, but when we first came on board in January, we did meet with Bonnie, and I think Jacob was a part of that conversation to go through all of the funds and determine what they were for, and if we could clean up and inactivate any of those. So we're still working through that cleanup.
Administrator Colander.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. I think one thing too, now that I think of it, the monthly reports that you guys were getting before were in an Excel spreadsheet that Clarissa had created. And there was some magic that I don't know how to do that would pull certain things out of Banyan. And I think that's probably what you're referring to. It was like dwindled down to that. But we're using Banyan, we're not using a spreadsheet. So when we clean it up, I mean, that's something we could probably look at that spreadsheet and say, okay, if it's not one of these, let's get rid of it.
So
So,
this is basically every accounting code known to man.
Well, to Maple Plain.
Yes.
I wouldn't go as far as to man.
In the Maple Plain finance
And
system,
It's special
yes.
to us.
And somewhere over the course of the past years or decades, it got put in here.
Correct.
And you're gonna get rid of the stuff that continues to come up as zeros because we're not using it anymore.
Yes,
Okay.
yep.
Okay.
We should be able to modify the report to exclude zeros and those funds that we've inactivated.
Thank you.
I think that will, I know for me personally, make it much more manageable when we're
Sure.
reading it and paying attention to it and keeping an eye on things.
Yes.
And then, help me with the terminology here, but when I look at 354-47-130-104, that is a category, a general category. Could you, in the future, put a cheat sheet in here that lists the titles of what the different categories are? I know water, I know sewer, I know fire, I know police, I know general, but there's a lot of funds here that just by looking at it, I don't know what they are.
Sure, so like your debt service funds, your bond payment funds, what are those fund numbers?
Correct, just,
Okay.
the first sheet might just be 15 categories with their numerology for it, so that I know that when I'm looking at 601, it's water. So
Sure.
I'm looking at 602 category, it's sewer. 801 is fire.
Okay.
So basically,
it
take
does
these
have that.
here. Can you see
Yeah.
the screen?
Not at all.
Sort of.
Oh,
Yeah.
so basically,
You just have
take,
to go to
take
the
this screen that has all the
Right.
funds and put the code next to it, make
Okay.
a little legend.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in here. Capital improvement is 4.5.
It just doesn't carry
Three
from page to
reconstructed
You're right, it
page.
doesn't carry from page to
Yeah.
page.
I think that's what you're asking for,
Yes,
if I read it right.
exactly.
Yeah, we have that.
Okay.
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 It's just on the page break, 'cause I
I
think I
see.
caught you off. Yeah, it's there.
And it will help when all the zeros are taken out. It
And
will
there's
clean
not
it
so
up.
many pages.
Right. Because there's stuff on here that we don't
It's
care
good to
about
know we all
because
read our
it's
packets.
obsolete.
Well, and part of it is, we want to be, I think of it as like, we want them to be transparent. Yeah, we're not using them, but you guys know at least that they're all there. But yeah, and it's been our discussions that we're gonna clean those out and just get rid of them, so then you don't even have to print a report that excludes anything with zero.
Will they?
You're just getting what we
Will
got.
you get rid of them, or will you just hide them?
I was thinking about getting rid of them.
Probably
But
an activate.
You probably know
Yeah.
better than I do.
It's going to depend on how recent the last transactions
used.
happened, yeah.
Mhm. For
Depending, so that'll
reporting
impact
purposes.
whether or not we can completely get rid of them, or if we'll have to just hide them.
Okay.
So,
And then eventually, after they're hidden long enough, then they can be, depending what they are for reporting
Right.
purposes,
Yes.
documentation, we can't just erase it all.
Right.
We don't want to.
right.
Right.
Not only can't we don't want to. Right. Any other questions for Julie? Well, thank you for being here and walking us through this first quarter. That's very helpful. So hearing no other questions, I'm looking for a motion to receive all of our submitted staff reports, A through F.
So moved.
Moved by Francis,
I'll second that motion.
second by Burek. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of accepting the staff reports as submitted, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. All right. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you.
All right, our next item this evening is new business, and we will begin with Resolution 24-0528-1. Scan documents are to be considered original, and I'm going to turn that over to our administrator.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. This is just kind of a formality. We're moving in things into Laserfiche and going into that electronic route. This resolution is basically the council saying we recognize that anything that is a scanned document is an original document. Basically just a formality. So I'm looking for a motion for the council to approve that resolution.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Francis to approve Resolution 24-0528-1.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Fay. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of approving Resolution 24-0528-1 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. All right, our next item of business this evening to come before us is the 2024 Street Project Finance Plan, which also includes another resolution that Tammy Amdahl and our administrator will lead us through.
And I am graciously going to allow Tammy.
Okay,
to
sounds good.
take this.
I wasn't sure. I didn't want to cut anyone off.
I don't want to cut you off either. Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. Tammy Umdahl with Northland Public Finance, serving as advisor to the city on the proposed sale of the Series 2024A bonds. You have in your packet a finance plan, and you were talking about seeing a lot of numbers. This has a lot of numbers as well, but I'm going to focus on the executive summary. So the city has been preparing for this sale for a number of months related to the 2024 street improvement project. The estimated principal, which we call par amount of the bonds, is $4,890,000. That may change a little bit between now and the final. And again, being issued to finance your 2024 street improvement costs and the cost of issuing the bonds. The bonds will be general obligation bonds of the city, meaning full faith and credit. But the revenue that is pledged to the bonds will be the tax levy and special assessments, and the city is planning to transfer revenue from the enterprise funds to pay a proportionate share of the bonds. I note that because that transfer, while planned and estimated, is not pledged to the bonds, so there's some flexibility from year to year as you determine those transfers. And that will all be detailed in the final cash flows. The repayment terms will be the same schedule as your existing bonds, so February 1 principal payments, you covered that in your quarterly report and the draw on those. So these will be February 1 as well. And interest of the bonds will be payable, first payable on February 1, 2025, and then semi-annually after. As far as the rate, and that's often a question I get asked at the set sale meeting, is what rate? The estimated rate for planning purposes is 4%. Rates have been bumping around a little bit. This will not be sold until June, so we will not know the final rate. This will be sold through a competitive process where Northland will take bids in the morning, and I'll cover that in a minute. So that is an estimated rate at this point. And that results in, after you account for the special assessments and the transfers from the utility funds, the average annual tax levy is estimated at about $130,000 for planning purposes. The bonds will be have a prepayment option at par, meaning no penalty, and that's approximately a 9-year call. So they would, bonds maturing in February 1, 23 through the remaining term would be callable on February 1, 2032. I mention that because that gives some flexibility on the timing of the special assessment revenues and how you manage your levies, etc. We are recommending, because of the size, that these bonds be rated. S&P Global currently has ratings outstanding on the city's existing bonds. Your city administrator and I in Northland have already begun to prepare for that rating call, which will be next week. Based upon my preparation with city administrator, I see no concerns with respect to affirmation of that AA, but that will depend on the rating process, and that rating will be available before the bonds are sold. So we are preparing for that diligently. With respect to timing, we will take proposals, bids on June, I almost said February, Monday, June 24th at 10 a.m. And then you will consider the award at your meeting that same evening, with the final low bid being determined on true interest costs. With respect to the closing, when the city will have the cash on the bonds, that will be on July 23rd, the closing. With that, Mayor and Council, again, a lot of numbers in your packet on this. Happy to get into more detail if there are questions, which I will stand for now. Thank you.
Anyone have any questions for Tammy?
I actually do, sorry.
Administrator Coley.
So I was just putting this together in my head. So you get the purchase of the bonds on Monday, June 24th at 10 a.m., and the council has to award them that same night?
Yes.
And now typically that information would go to them in advance?
Great question. So you will have a resolution in your packet in advance that bond counsel Kennedy and Graven will complete for the city. That will have some blanks because when their bonds are sold competitively, you don't know a week in advance what
Okay.
those final rates and amounts are. Most bond counsels, including Kennedy and Graven, is really good about during the day completing those blank items that are in the council meeting packet so that final resolution form of the resolution can be shared with the city council before you take action that evening.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or clarifications? Administrator Coley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I don't have any questions or comments, but I kind of want to touch base on a couple more things while Tammy is here. That was in the packet. There is the resolution 2024-0528-2. And then also, sorry, I had to skip ahead here. a letter that I would be sending to Ellers to cancel our services with Ellers and going with Northland. I did pull it up earlier, and I can again for the council. I should have just left it pulled up, so my apologies. And Tammy, if it pops out at you, please holler. Right here it
Are you
is.
looking for your letter to Ehlers?
No, I am looking for this just to kind of show you guys the
Oh,
fee differences and stuff like that, what we're paying Ellers and what we'll be paying Northland. One of the reasons that I want to switch to Northland too is I've worked with Northland in other cities I've worked with. I really enjoy working with them. Tammy has been extremely helpful, and I haven't heard from anybody from Ellers since I've been here, so. Tammy was the person I reached out to when we had to talk about this, and so that's the direction that I would like to
did
go.
you do our
So-
last bond sale?
We did not, so this will be the first one
Right.
that we insert.
So I just wanted to give that background and that information to the council.
Thank you for that. And are you looking for a recommendation for that to end the relationship with Ellers and to go with Northland and for the resolution?
I am,
Are you looking for
Madam
two
Mayor.
different things? All right, so let's do those separately. So I am looking for a motion to send the formal letter ending the relationship with Ehlers and to work with Northland Security going forward.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Councilmember Francis,
I'll second that motion.
second by Councilmember Burek. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. The next item before us then is the resolution, which is 24-0528-2. And that is in our packet that we had ahead of time. Looking for the resolution providing for the issuance and sales for the general obligation improvement bonds. And again, that is resolution number 24-0528-2.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Councilmember Fay,
Second.
second by Councilmember Francis. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor of approving that resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming out tonight, Tammy, and being here in person. All right. Next item of business, under new business, is letter C, Hennepin County Assessing Services Contract. I will turn that over to staff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. I am very excited to announce that the Hennepin County Commissioners voted to continue assessing Hennepin County cities free of charge with populations under 30,000, which will save us about $20,000 a year.
And this is new.
To-
This is not a
this is-
continuance. We
No,
were
this is
paying.
brand new.
Yeah.
Starting for 2025. I'm used to seeing this, so more counties are going to this model. So it kind of surprised me when I seen this, but it is good for us. So there is an agreement that we have to sign with them that's pretty much on par with what I've had to do in other cities that I've worked with. But it's good news.
It's very good news.
It is good news, but there is no free lunch.
It's part of our taxes.
Yes.
All right, so any questions for staff regarding this? All right, and then staff has no reason why we wouldn't do this?
No.
I couldn't think of anything else. All right, so with that then, I'm looking for a motion to approve the Hennepin County Assessing Service Contract that it was in our packet for review.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Councilmember Vierak,
Second.
second by Councilmember Francis. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
same sign. Motion carries 4-0. All right. Next item of business is a resolution, another resolution before us tonight, Resolution 24-0528-3. This is authorizing bank signatures, and I'm going to turn this over to Assistant City Administrator Kevin Larson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. So this is actually a continuation from a workshop that we had about a month ago. And since I joined the city in February, we needed checks and balances, and we also need a backup for Jacob when he's gone. And so the City of Maple Plain requires 2 signatures for official financial documents. And the resolution in front of the council allows me to be that signer in Jacob's absence. As a follow-up to our last meeting, there is a checks and balances to this with the specific verbiage that states permits only one staff member to serve as one of the 2 required signatories. That makes it so there is council approval for all financial decisions that take place, and there's an awareness of it. There's nothing that the staff can do without your knowledge.
Signature.
Or, yeah, signature. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that update and for making those changes. So looking for a resolution, or looking for a recommendation for Resolution 24-0528-3, authorizing the bank signatures.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Councilmember Fay,
I'll second that motion.
second by Councilmember Burek. Any further discussion or questions?
I have a question.
Yes, Councilmember Francis.
Do we need to have a backup for you as a signer? Either the deputy mayor or a council member? I know we've discussed it before.
I mean, to add another, if something were to happen to me, there would have to be a council meeting, adding someone else. Otherwise, I can do it all electronically. I don't have to physically be here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I can do it from my computer. I
You-
don't go-
okay,
I don't go to the
okay.
bank. So I get sent something with passwords and logins, and then I go in and
And-
approve it that way. So
Okay,
I don't
all right.
physically need to be in town or here,
Okay.
so.
I wasn't
if
aware of that.
answers that.
Yeah, that answers my question.
Okay.
Well, then technically couldn't Jacob do it from anywhere too?
Probably.
Okay.
But if he's on vacation, I don't think that's a fair ask, or if he's laying in a hospital bed.
Let me make a clarification on that, please. I can log into the bank. I can do transfers. I can make ACH approvals remotely, but I cannot sign checks remotely. My signatures are wet signatures.
Oh, mine are not.
Got it, I understand.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you for clarifying that. I stand corrected.
Okay.
You cannot sign the checks. I can. Good questions. Is that
Okay.
comfortable with that answer, Councilmember Francis, or?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
All right, so we have a motion, we have a second, we've had discussion. All in favor of approving Resolution 24-0528-3, authorizing the bank signatures?
I'll make that motion.
Oh,
Oh,
Wait.
we already did.
we already have a motion.
Yeah.
And
We need to
second.
vote.
We just, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries 4-0. Thank you for your flexibility on that. Sorry about that. Council reports and other business this evening. Councilmember Francis, do you want to kick it off?
I would be happy to.
Okay.
So for the month of May, I started off the month attending Highway 12 Safety Coalition.
Thank you.
And we were told that MnDOT has started surveying the native burial mounds at Highway 12 and County Line Road and County Road 92, which is the first step in the whole reconstruction of that last piece of Highway 12. From there, we had workshops, a special meeting regarding River Oaks. I attended the Memorial Day service, heard an awesome talk from Sheriff Witt, inspiring, and it was good to see our veterans be recognized. And then finished the month with today's workshop and business meeting.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Francis. Councilmember Fay?
Well, semi-busy. I maintain regular Thursday attendance with the mayor at Orono Rotary Club. Pair of highlights this past month, we sponsored the ice cream social component of the Orono High School Community Ed Wellness Expo. We ran out of ice cream and had to actually go get more.
It's a good problem to have.
It was a good problem
And you're
to
also the
have.
most popular vendor there.
Yes, we were.
Everyone knew where the Rotary booth was.
Yes, we were. And then just last week, we sponsored the meal as well as scholarships to 5 deserving high school students who graduated from Rotary's year-long mentorship program, the STRIVE program. It's a cooperation with the Orono High School and the Orono Rotary, as well as other Rotaries across the country, I suppose internationally. I've spent much time since the beginning of the month on the Rotary's Party in the Park, which is going to take place this Saturday from 5 to 11. I've been working on developing, printing, distributing, and hanging banners and flyers and electronic information. Spent an hour with Kevin at his meet and greet, got to know him a little bit more. Thank you. Fire Commission meeting with the mayor. 2 days, 2 evenings of strategic planning.
Oh, I forgot about that
where
part.
we charted the direction of the city council. And a joint meeting with planning and all of city council and all of you on the CUP application for River Oaks. It was a difficult analysis. It was a great deal of discussion about the use of Maple Plains public safety services, in addition to a pair of workshops in tonight's meeting. I'm done.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Fay. Councilmember Burek?
Well, it wasn't quite in May, but I think it should be recognized. The retirement party for Rick Dennison since our last meeting. Attended workshops, but the strategic planning for me was great because it really got to show to all of us as a group how we want to look forward and what avenues and strides we want to take priority on and to make changes for the better. Public safety meeting with River Oaks was definitely a great meeting because it did show the taxing that our, not taxing I shouldn't say, the stress that our public safety does have on with the short staffing and the volunteer ability for the fire department to recruit staffing. So, and then tonight's meeting.
Thank you. Many of the things have been said already here tonight, but I just think May was a busy month for council, and just want to thank everyone. Even tonight, our one packet was 347 pages.